Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's story is one that starts with exhaustion, silence, and a test no one saw coming. It's about a struggling single father trying to survive one impossible night, and a billionaire CEO who thought she understood people until one whispered sentence changed everything forever. Daniel Brooks had learned how to move quietly. Quietly so he wouldn't wake his daughter when he came home late from work. Quietly so the landlord wouldn't hear him sneaking into the apartment after missing another rent payment. Quietly because life had taught him that when you are poor, tired, and alone, nobody wants to hear your problems anyway. At 34 years old, Daniel lived in a tiny apartment above an old laundromat on the edge of the city. The ceiling leaked when it rained. The heater only worked if he kicked the side twice. And every single morning, he woke up before sunrise to make breakfast for his 7-year-old daughter, Lily. Lily was the only beautiful thing left in his world. "Daddy, is today your interview?" she asked one morning while eating cereal at the tiny kitchen table. "Yeah," he said softly. "Big interview. Will they finally give you a good job?" "I hope so." Lily grinned. "Then maybe you can stop pretending spaghetti is breakfast food." Daniel laughed despite himself. Then 1 week earlier, he saw an opening online for a night caretaker position at Hartwell Global Enterprises. The company was massive. $1 billion massive. The CEO, Victoria Hartwell, was famous for being ruthless, brilliant, and impossible to impress. Daniel almost didn't apply. But the job included healthcare. Healthcare meant medicine for Lily's asthma. So he showed up. Daniel stood in the lobby wearing the only suit he owned, a cheap grey jacket with sleeves slightly too short. He could feel people staring. A woman in designer heels walked past him and whispered to another employee, "Interview candidate." The other woman laughed quietly. "Looks homeless." Daniel lowered his eyes. He was used to it. After nearly an hour, a sharply dressed assistant approached him. "Mr. Brooks." "Yes." "Follow me." She led him upstairs to a private office overlooking the entire city. And there she was. Victoria Hartwell. Tall. Elegant. Cold. She barely looked up from the papers in front of her. Daniel sat carefully. Victoria scanned his resume with visible disappointment. "No college degree," she said flatly. "Former warehouse employee." "Yes." "You've switched jobs 9 times in 11 years. The company's closed down." "MHM." Her voice carried no sympathy at all. Then she leaned back. "So tell me, Mr. Brooks, why should I trust someone like you around my company?" Daniel hesitated. Because he knew what she really meant. Someone desperate. Someone beneath her world. But he answered honestly. "Because when people have nothing left to lose," he said quietly, "they usually become the hardest workers." For the first time, Victoria looked directly at him. Something about his answer caught her attention. Still, her face remained unreadable. "This position requires overnight supervision at one of my private estates," she explained. "You'd handle security checks, emergency calls, maintenance issues, and guest support." Daniel nodded quickly. "I can do that." "That's fine. The shifts are long." "I don't mind." Victoria tapped her pen slowly. Then she asked the question that changed everything. "If your daughter became sick during work hours, Would you abandon your post? Daniel froze. My daughter? You mentioned her in your application. He swallowed hard. No, he said carefully. But I'd find a way to help her without failing my responsibilities. Victoria studied him in silence. Then finally, you start tonight. Really? Don't make me regret it. That evening, Daniel kissed Lily goodnight and left her with their elderly neighbor Mrs. Green. Go get that job, sweetheart, the old woman whispered. Daniel arrived at the Hartwell estate just before 9 p.m. The mansion was enormous. Bigger than some hotels. A butler gave him instructions. The CEO will be arriving late tonight after an overseas meeting. You are not to disturb her under any circumstances. Understood. She values silence. Daniel almost smiled. Silence was the only thing he truly understood anymore. Hours passed quietly. He checked doors. Reviewed cameras. Fixed a broken light near the west hallway. At around 1:15 a.m., headlights appeared outside. She entered the mansion looking exhausted. Her heels in one hand, phone in the other. She stopped when she saw Daniel. You're still here. I'm on shift until morning. She nodded once. Then suddenly staggered slightly. Are you okay? I'm fine. But her face looked pale. Too pale. She disappeared upstairs without another word. 10 minutes later, the mansion lights flickered once. Then twice. Then completely shut off. Daniel grabbed a flashlight immediately. Storm outside. Power failure. He checked the backup generator in the basement. Dead. Perfect, he muttered. No response. Pulse normal. He sat in a nearby chair to monitor her condition. So she created an experiment. Daniel was crying. Or her power. Love was weakness in her family. Hours passed. Daniel never touched anything in the room. Never complained. Never slept. At one point he quietly placed his own jacket over Victoria because the room had grown cold from the storm. He shivered afterward in only his thin shirt. And still stayed beside her. By morning, Victoria couldn't take it anymore. She slowly opened her eyes. Daniel immediately stood. The relief in his voice sounded genuine. Not forced. Not fake. Real. You fainted, he explained quickly. I think exhaustion and stress. I know what happened. Her voice sounded softer than usual. Daniel stepped back respectfully. I called the doctor earlier, he said. He said your vitals seemed stable but he's coming soon. Victoria stared at him silently. You stayed here all night? Yes. Why? Daniel looked confused by the question. Because you needed someone. No hesitation. No calculation. Just truth. Victoria slowly sat up. You could have searched this room, she said carefully. Taken valuables. Nobody would know. Daniel frowned. Victoria felt something crack inside her carefully controlled world. She stood and walked toward the giant windows overlooking the city. For years, people obeyed her because they feared her. But nobody had protected her expecting nothing in return. Nobody. Until now. You mentioned your wife, she said softly. Daniel looked down instantly. She passed away 3 years ago. What happened? Cancer. Victoria turned slowly. And you handled that alone. I didn't really handle it, he admitted with a weak smile. I just kept moving because Lily needed me. The honesty in his voice hurt to hear. Victoria suddenly noticed things she'd ignored before. The exhaustion in his posture. The worn shoes. Lily. Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. Victoria looked down at her untouched coffee. Another cleared his throat. With respect, he lacks qualifications. Then she added. Integrity. Staff turnover dropped. And slowly. Victoria changed too. Speaking softer. And for the first time in years, Victoria sat in a tiny apartment eating burnt grilled cheese sandwiches while listening to a child explain why squirrels were basically tiny criminals. Is it true a former warehouse worker changed your leadership philosophy? That the strongest people are often the gentlest and the loneliest.